Hello friends, welcome to session 12, Planning and Eliciting Requirements. The agenda of this session is requirements work plan. It's a kind of simply planning that what you want. So it is a document actually. Then we have a components of the RWP, how you prepare this document, RWP. Then identifying good questions for elicitation. So this is another question, what type of questions should be asked, preparing and identifying the questions. Then active listening, and why we should listen to others, and what is the what kind of listening should be there, and what is active listening. Understanding what is active listening is the topic. Then we have types of eliciting techniques, or in other words eliciting techniques itself. So how to elicit techniques, how to gather this requirements. So how to get that information or obtain the information from the person. That's going to be the agenda of the day. So requirements work plan, RWP. IIBA has a knowledge idea or knowledge area in the BA body of knowledge dedicated to requirement planning and management. It's a complete body of knowledge. This is one of the 6 knowledge areas which indicates the industry fields requirements planning is important. So basically objective is to understand whether planning should be done or we should start directly. So planning is important for any project, and that is what the objective is, and that's what IIBA has prescribed. Preparing the requirement work plan, if you plan you prepare a work plan, requirement work plan, it gives you a chance to take a step back, analyze the scope of the work, and determine the best technique and approach to facilitating or in facilitating the requirements work. So this is the whole idea about it, that it will help you in deciding, analyzing the scope of the work and finding out the best techniques. Probably the technique which we have chosen may not be best, maybe we have some better techniques compared to this. So it will and helping you out in approach also to facilitate the requirements work. So that is why we should plan requirement work plan. What are the components of requirement work plan, RWP? I have shared a document with you people, friends, in first mail. There was Word document for this requirement work plan. You should fill that up with any one project in mind, and I will give the project. If you want, I can give the title of the project, and based on that you please fill the project, fill the document. It is 6-7 page document, and this has a project type, project scope, project stakeholders and their role on the project, requirements, activities, task, deliverables, and time and duration estimates for each, identifying milestones in the above activities and development and delivery of the requirements, and requirement assumptions and risks. So these are the points which are included in RWP, which I already have shared with you. You can go through that after going through this slide, after having this session, the document which I have shared with you, probably that will help you out. So once you decide the components, you can start simply writing about that, because you have gathered the project scope, you have decided the project scope. So you already have the knowledge about all these things, the headings which are given is RWP. So therefore that is what the objective was. First you learn the individual component and then put the components together. Now we are putting the components together, what we have learned so far. Identifying good questions for elicitation. A critical part of preparing for requirement elicitation is identifying a list of questions, because here you are going to extract the requirements, you are going to get it or obtain it from the stakeholders. So we have techniques, we have specific questions or specific type of questions which helps us in eliciting the requirements. or to identify that. You definitely want to avoid securing valuable stakeholders' time only to be lost about what question to ask. So there should be no point in that you are not prepared, you don't have questions ready, and you simply sit and start talking. That should be the not the idea. Idea should be you are very well prepared about the questions to be asked and how to get the answers of those questions. Some stakeholders will talk your ear off, simply forcing you to gently interrupt them to keep meeting on the track, because they will take you out of the track, out of agenda, out of focus. But others need to be led through a structured conversation. So you have to remain focused, and you have to have a structured approach in asking, in eliciting the requirements. What is a requirements questionnaire? A requirement questionnaire is a list of questions about the project requirements, and more or less same. That's why I'm so confident every time you ask me, and I say that I have very thought of plan and very implementation kind of the plan which will be implemented. So that is the approach which I always have been telling you. So now, if after going through this, you will have a very clear understanding of how to gather what the client is expecting, how to get that, because this is a little tricky situation. Yesterday only I met that client who had another requirement of mode of payment. I discussed that day in the previous class that my client has a POS, point of sale, and he want a mode of payment now. Now, yesterday when I was discussing this initial scope, I thought of it should be up to this much. But after talking to him, the scope of the work has changed, to a considerable time and considerably. So, because the that mode of payment should be reflected in filter, should be reflected in sales report, should be reflected in everywhere transactions. And if you want a specific type of sales report, he should be able to get that. So there are a lot of things, a lot of factors influencing or affecting that requirement. When we include only one feature, that mode of payment should be there. So asking questions, because I continued asking questions. Okay, when I asked questions, he was able to provide the answers, because he is a real requester. He is working on that. So essentially, each high level requirement from your scope document should have a list of questions to further refine your understanding. For example, how, this is a category of questions. How, requirements. So how type of questions, then where type of questions, then when. So we have simple words: how, where, when, who, what, and why. We are going to understand each of these questions and type of questions. Okay, now let's look at that. We have another criteria of categorizing the questions. How I have categorized these questions based on these words that they are starting, like how, where, when, who, what, why. We have another category or another way of defining the questions is functional requirements questions, scope questions, connectivity questions, or connectivity means external interface between other sources or other modules or other programs. So we can categorize them the way we want, but this is the better approach. I was studying, and I found that there are 2 3 different approaches of asking questions. I found this quite straightforward and simple. Okay, and you can also let me know what are the different categories of questions. I have categorized them in the form of why, how, when, who, what, why. You can find out different of categorizing the questions. This may be an assignment also to you, because when I was searching, I found there are more than one approach of finding questions. So you can look at this, understand this, and try understanding another way of questions and asking questions. How. Now if I use this how questions or how requirement questions, then these are the questions you should ask. How will you use this feature? Now this is what I asked straightway, from my client yesterday. I simply asked how you are going to use this mode of payment, and show me the existing project, and show me where and how this feature should affect you. He navigated through all, right from taking payment to reports and everywhere. So that helped me in understanding the requirement scope. Is this feature a process? And if so, what are the steps, or what questions can I ask to ascertain the steps. I similarly same question, it was continued yesterday, same, exactly same, because I asked him what is the process. He said when I enter POS, he, and when somebody comes to me for asking something and I am creating the bill or transaction for that client, whenever I settle the payment, okay, then at that point in time it should ask me what is the mode of the payment. So and then he categorically specify, you can give me F4 key for cash, F5 key for check, F6 key for credit card, F7 key for debit card, F9 key. So he was talking about the function key. I suggested, what if I give you a drop down list and a single character shortcut? He said that is better, in fact, rather than function keys. Function key appears to be mandatory. If you give me a drop down list, I have a choice of selecting from the drop down list or directly entering a single character. So he was clear that, so it is a process change, in fact, sorry, it is a feature, and it is to be required. The steps we discussed yesterday about this part. How might we meet this business need? The business need is, he want a segregating report on that sale. I want only credit card sale separate, separate, because I need to produce the that is transaction details to the bank in order to for matching the discrepancies, or consolidating the payments of through credit card with that actual payments received in the bank. How might we think about the future a bit differently? So these are the questions which I got, and I can relate to these questions to my requirement there, which I discussed yesterday. That yesterday's experience is helping me out to explain. It is as recent as yesterday. That's what. How will you know this is complete? So if it is taking the payment in different modes, with different modes, and finally the sales report and the user reports and everybody, we are able to get the details proper, different kind of requirement, I mean the different mode of payment. Based on the mode of payment, if I'm able to generate reports, my job is complete, and I'm able to, that's what I want, nothing more than that. So these are how questions. Then we have where questions. Where does the process start? So it starts when the settle payment, the dialog box is displayed. Settle the payment means ask the payment from the user. Where would the user access this feature? Settle payment. Where would the user be located physically when the user is using this feature? So this is again with respect to my software, it is online, it is not online, it is offline software. So he is there physically there when the system is feature is implemented. Where would the result be visible? Sales report and all that. So you see how it is so easy to relate these questions with the requirement, because when I was eliciting the requirement from him, what exactly he want. Initially he said only one sentence. He said I want a mode of payment feature. Then to elaborate it further, to get further details on this, I talked about this in detail, and it was around 1 hour meeting with him. Then he explained me everything after answer of these questions. When the when requirement question, when will this feature be used? He said before New Year. When would you need to know about what? When do you need to know about this? He said I need to know about this feature, because these are the straight simple questions. Need to know about means continued. When you do you need to know about each and every step, like I talked about. When do you need to know about implementation? When do you need to know about the sales part? So the when questions. When will the feature fail? When will the ready to start? This question number 3. When will the feature fail? This is a pessimistic approach. In programming we use this, and it is mandatory to be pessimistic in programming, because if you are not pessimistic in programming, you are not very good programmer, because you don't know what scenario would be. So if you start asking yourself when this feature fail, when this program fail, when this system fail, you will get to know, okay, these are the weak areas and we need to improve upon this. So this is a very interesting aspect of doing programming or understanding programming and so offering a solution to a problem, though, because that will give the boundary, that will create a boundary. Okay, this is the limit, this is the boundary beyond which you cannot expect beyond this. So you start with that. When will be when will we be ready to start? So about the requirements, once we have the requirements, when we can start with this. So he yesterday only he gave me the advance, he gave me the go ahead, and we started yesterday only. So these are the questions which we are asking from the user. Who, requirements question, who will use this feature, who will deliver the input for the feature, who will receive the output for the feature, who will learn about the result of someone using this feature, who can I ask to learn more about this. So these are who questions. Now you understand, you can correlate easily. I don't think I need to explain, everywhere I should explain that, but I hope you understand it now. What requirement questions? What do I know about this feature? What does this feature need to do? What is the end result of doing this? What are the pieces of this feature? What needs to happen next? What must happen before? So all these things, questions, now you can relate to this point of sale feature enhancement. Okay, what if, think of all alternative scenarios and ask questions about what should happen if those scenarios are true, and what needs to be tracked in the process or the feature. So these are what questions. Then we have why questions. Why questions are great wrap up questions, as they help confirm the requirement you just elicited, map back to the need you identified when you scoped the project. Is there any other way to accomplish this? Does this feature meet the business need and above, and solve the problem we trying to solve? So it is a why we are sitting here, why have you, we have done this all. So this is a wrap up kind of questions which we should ask. Then comes the active listening. Active listening is a method used to listen and respond to others in a structured and deliberate way. Okay, it requires a listener. Somebody is calling. Are you receiving the call, or it's me? Can you check, please? Okay. Okay, thank you. So active listening is a method used to listen and respond to others in a structured and deliberate way. It requires a listener to understand and actively evaluate what he or she heard. It is basically restating. Actually, this is a part of communication. When we talk about the concept of communication, it requires that. Yep. Anybody saying something? Asif is not. Okay, thank you, Asif. Thank you. It requires a listener to understand and actively evaluate what he or she heard. Basically, it is a part of communication. Whenever we talk about the word communication, it is a transaction actually. What is the mode of transaction, how transaction started, and how it was complete. So it has to be verified by the listener that yes, I have received it and I understood it the way you want it. Okay, so listening actually is restating what the other person has understood. Active listening can be used to achieve a number of goals. One of the most common goal of active listening is to ensure that the listener accurately understands what the speaker had said and replying back to the speaker and paraphrasing what they believe they have just heard. So this is a quite common sentence. So if I understand you correctly, you said this or you meant this. I have seen a very common examples in everyday life. Whenever we go to a restaurant, for taking dinner or lunch, the waiter, almost every time I have found this, he restate the order. Whatever we order, he restate. Okay, you order for this. So this is the kind of active listening we refer to. So when the other person is able to restate whatever you said and he can reconfirm and repeat exactly precisely what you said. It is called active listening. He was listening actively. I can put it in a simple words also. The brain is working. Whenever you say active listening, I'll put it at okay, your brain is working. That's it. Hearing, brain doesn't work. You when you are driving, you listen to music. So you actually don't listen to music, you hear the music. Because your focus is on the road, your focus is on the driving. So it cannot be listening. It is just hearing. Something is going in the mind. Brain is not working. Brain is not interpreting that everything. Same way, there are other aspects also when we say brain working, not working. Hearing and listening, that is the interesting part of it. Seeing and observing. If you are looking at the slide, look or observe. You are looking at the slide, your brain is not working. If you are observing the slide, your brain is working. Because when you say observe, you are actually minutely checking everything, each and every sentence, each and every word, and the alignment in text and color and everything. When you are actually just looking at the slide, probably you are not reading the content. So observing versus reading, or observing versus looking at, you should focus more of observing. That is what the objective. So I want you to observe the slides, not look at the slides. Okay, next is the speaker can either acknowledge that listener's understanding was accurate, or can quickly identify any misunderstanding that the listener may have. Actively listening helps the listener avoid incorrect conclusions due to unintentional assumptions that the listener may have made. Okay, it is important to note that a listener may employ active listening is not necessary agreeing with the speaker. That point, very interesting point. You may be listening, you may have a sharp contrast, you may disagree what the speaker is saying. So it not necessarily mean that you are agreeing to the speaker. Active listening is you are understanding. Listening is up to that point. You are understanding what the other person is saying. It is not about agreeing or not agreeing. Another goal of active listening is for the listener to extract additional information from the speaker. If you are actively participating, you may interrupt and you may verify what the other person was saying, what the speaker was saying. While listening to the speaker, the listener may notice something in the speaker's tone or body language. By responding to the speakers with a phrase such as "you seems to feel uncomfortable," "you seems to feel little not well prepared," or something, so this appears that speaker has the opportunity to confirm the correct, or to confirm or correct the listener's understanding. So this is the concept of active listening. As a business analyst, being able to listen is primary component of your business analyst skill set. Mind it. I discuss this because I want to make it clear and you should understand it. It should be your skill to listen. You cannot jump and interrupt. You should not create a barrier in communication. Whenever you interrupt somebody, we call it as barrier in communication. Barrier should never be imposed by the listener. You needed to listen to the project sponsor to figure out what the project is all about. You need to listen to your stakeholders to understand what their needs and wants are. You need to listen to the technology folks to make sure that they understand what the requirements really mean. So your job is listening. It's very clear. If you don't listen properly, you don't understand properly, and you will not be able to reproduce the same thing to different stakeholders. And Lord knows you have to listen to your managers to make sure that you are doing whatever you are doing is in line with the company policy. Sure, everyone has to listen to other people at times. However, as a business analyst, listening is one of your primary business analyst skills, and you should have it. Requirement elicitation techniques. Now, to elicit is what? Elicit is to draw forth or bring out, or call forth or draw out. Requirements elicitation is an active effort of to extract information from stakeholders and subject matter experts. So from where and how should we extract this information? That is the pending agenda now onward. Elicitation or elicitation is not a step or task you do at a certain point. It is a set of technique actually you apply appropriately during the requirement phase. We should go for requirement gathering or requirement elicitation. Difference. Look at this. Requirement gathering is like collecting seashells. Take what you see. More reactive and less proactive. Versus requirement elicitation. Now, requirement elicitation is what? It is like archaeology, planned, deliberate search, and more proactive, less reactive. So, you as a system analyst should not do requirement gathering, you should go for requirement elicitation. Right, that's now you are fine tuning your skills, understanding. Should we go for requirement gathering or should we go for requirement elicitation? So more structured approach, more proactive approach is requirement elicitation. Requirement elicitation techniques. There are different techniques which are used for requirement elicitation. Brainstorming, where we work in groups, we identify some participants and we allow them, we give them a topic and they start discussing the topic and we take note of that. Interface analysis, existing system interface, we analyze that, we study that. Process modeling, we will understand in the next session. We do a modeling of the existing process and helping that. Document analysis. So all these things, document analysis, interviews, there are 10 different techniques. If you see, these are 10 techniques. We are going to understand each one of them in the coming up slides. Focus groups, observation, requirement workshops. Let's understand each of them one by one. First is brainstorming. It produces number of numerous ideas. You need to set a time limit, make it visual, designate as facilitator, usually the BA, watch the group size, ideally it is 6 to 8, establish ground rules, criteria for evaluating and rating ideas, do not allow criticism because that is again communication barrier, limit discussion and evaluation. At the end, use the criteria to evaluate the idea. It can be fun, it can be productive and motivating. This is the first session, brainstorming. Second is document analysis, quite simple. Elicit information from existing documentation. It may be helpful when the subject matter experts are not available or they left the organization, probably working for somebody else or left the company. Okay. Asif is asking for. Asif, you are there in the session? Isn't he cutting off? What is this? Asif, you are there in the session? Okay, I think he's getting disconnected. Can you invite him, Nadeem? I'm on hold now. Something is happening on the chat. Ali is saying, Ali, what is that actually? Do you know what is this? Ali is there on the call? Okay. What is this, Ali? Asif is asking for something and you are replying to that. Oh, oh, okay. Okay. But everybody is able to listen to me properly, right? Hmm. I have there's no problem from my side, right? Okay, great. Oh, all right, all right. So we're continuing now. Second is document analysis. Elicit information from existing documents, as I said, helpful when subject matter experts are not available or they left the organization. Use relevant documentation to study and understand the relevant details. And business plans, project charter, business rule, contract, statement of work, memos, emails, training material. You can go through and on about understanding this and analyzing the existing documents on the subject. Whatever you can gather from that. It is how you elicit the information requirement. So this is part of the requirement gathering. Focus groups. Elicit information from a select group via moderator. Very formal process, more structured, usually has 6 to 8 attendees. It required a skilled moderator who promotes the discussion, ask open questions, engage all members, and remain neutral. He don't pass judgment. Focus group becomes irrelevant if the moderators start passing the judgment. You might have watched on the TV also. Whenever there's a debate happening, if the moderator start passing judgment, he appears to be biased towards somebody, right? Save times and cost from not conducting many individual interviews. So that is the objective of focus groups. Who is calling? Asif. Okay, can you just I'm not receiving the call. Let me check. Can we yes. Okay. Asif, there's some problem in your line, boss. Okay, okay. So, fourth is interface analysis. Identify interfaces between solutions and define requirements for them. Like we need to understand different interfaces. Like for example, the basis of success, interoperability. Here we are talking about our solution interacting with other solution, internal or external. The interface refers to communication with other sources. Okay, connecting, like connecting two pipes. Those are the interface where they connect. The basis, it is a basis for the successful interoperability. Clarify boundaries for the specific applications, identify interfacing stakeholders, define the inputs and outputs of the interface, and plus validation rules and events that trigger the interface interactions. Some type of interfaces to or from external applications, or to or from internal applications, and to or from a hardware devices. So these are the interfaces, how your application is going to interact with this. So you probably have to write down the applications to which your application need to communicate, internal, external, and hardware, all. That will again, it is eliciting the requirements, obtaining the requirements on your scope to define make your document. Number 5 is interviews. Ask questions geared toward uncovering information. Formal or informal interview, you can have it over a cup of coffee, or you can have a formal interview directed at an individual or selected group. Maintain focus on the goal of the interview. Open-ended questions find information. One second, one second. Yes. Can you see this now? Okay. Yes. Okay. 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 Because I changed it, make some corrections, so I had to take it off. So I thought it may go off the radar. Let me come back. Now, you should be able to. Okay. Thank you. Open-ended questions and find information gaps. Closed-ended questions confirm and validate. So this is interview techniques actually. Success depends on knowledge of the interviewer and interviewees. So basically, you should have to have the background of the interviewee or interviewer who is taking the interview, or whenever you're taking interview, whenever you watch any interview on TV, you might have noticed the interviewer appears to be quite knowledgeable about the subject, or knowledgeable about the person he is conducting interview for. He actually gather a lot of information about him, background check and everything. Then only he go for. Whenever you give a profile or a resume, that interviewer prepare questions to ask from you based on your profile, your resume. Experience of the interviewer, skill in documenting discussions, and readiness of the interviewee to provide information, and relationship between the parties. It's not very good to reach consensus because you may not agree on. So there are negative things, but then yes, gathering information is one of the method, one of the technique interviews. Then we have observations. You see here in the pic also, one user is working and others are just observing what the other person is doing. So study a stakeholder's work environment. Good when document current or changing processes. Passive or invisible, because observer, when you are observing, the other person should not know and you should not disturb him. Observer does not ask questions, take notes. Generally stay out of the way, does not intervene, as I said. It is active or visible also. We may have dialogue with the user or while they are performing their work. So there are two types of observation: passive or invisible, and active or visible. May be disruptive, may be time consuming, may not observe all possible scenarios. But however, it's good as a part of the technique. Not should not be everything, but should be one of them. Then we have process modeling. Understand work with multiple steps, roles, or departments. Initiated by an event, activities to include are manual, automated, or combination of both. Visual nature may help some people because that is process modeling. Modeling is presenting in the form of a diagram and explaining the flow with the help of the diagram. Can it become complex and unwidely if not structured carefully? So structuring of the modeling is very careful. We have a session on this, so that will help you in understanding how to create the process model. Complex processes should be broken into their components to aid in understanding the process model. Then we have a prototyping. Visually represent the user interface. Good validation measure, great for interaction. It supports visual learners. Focus on whole situation or whole solution, not just a specific area. Great for validating requirements and uncovering gaps. Can take a lot of time if bogged down with hows instead of what's, because it represent your user interface. Prototyping kind of dummy, or just you can say how it is going to look. So it is validation of the requirement, that this is going to look like this, so do you agree to this? So it's a kind of a validation measure also. And for interaction also, you'll find it very interesting, but sometimes it may become time consuming. When we were creating prototype, we focus on the design part of our portal, one of the client. So the entire interface took considerable time, but it was a good idea for him to understand, okay, this is how my application is going to look like. So he was in a better position to give ideas and inputs to that. So prototyping is again great tool to obtain information from the client. Requirement workshops. One of the most effective techniques: have an agenda, carefully select attendees, use an experienced and neutral facilitator, and use a scribe, not the facilitator. One or a few days in duration. So workshops are generally not of one day, maybe few days of duration. Illicit information is a short period. Too many participants slow it down. So it should not be very big group size. Workshop should be in the form of a team of 4 or 5 people at a time. Too few participants causes gaps, so it should not be workshop cannot be conducted in we have only 2 participants or 3 participants, so 4 5 participants is good for the workshop. 6 participants is ideal situation. Team members availability is an issue. Okay, too few participants may cause gaps, as I said. Combined with other techniques, interviews, surveys, or questionnaires, process modeling for understanding. This is a requirement gathering technique or illustration technique number 9. And the final is this. This is last. Efficient is a survey or questionnaire. Efficiently elicit information from many people, have a purpose, appropriate attendance or audience, establish a time frame, clear and concise questions, focus on business objective, and support with follow-up interviews. So this is a kind of getting information from the client, and it's a very good objective. You don't have a question or questionnaire or survey without any purpose. So decide what you are going to get from. So close-ended questions, a range of possible responses is very well understood and easier to analyze. There are open-ended questions also, like extra detail when the range of response is not well understood and harder to analyze and quantify. Use selectively. So keep minimum number of open-ended questions, as many as closed questions as possible.